I don't know what I would have done without both of you. You've given me everything, and I will always be thankful for both of you. The room was filled with warmth and happiness as they enjoyed their meal together, knowing that they were truly blessed to have each other. Once upon a time, in a small village in the eastern part of Nigeria, there were two sisters named Oluchi and Agnes. Oluchi was the older sister, and Agnes was the younger one. They were the only children of their parents, who sadly passed away in a terrible car accident. Despite being teenagers when their parents died, Oluchi took on the responsibility of caring for her younger sister, Agnes. Oluchi made a big sacrifice for Agnes. She had to leave school so that Agnes could continue her education at the university. Oluchi worked hard to provide for Agnes, even if it meant going without food herself. She sold things in the market and did whatever she could to ensure Agnes had everything she needed to succeed in life. Agnes thrived because of Oluchi's love and sacrifice. She never lacked anything and had a bright future ahead. Oluchi's whole world revolved around Agnes, and she was determined to see her sister succeed. One day, Oluchi met a kind young man named Alfred. They became friends and soon fell in love. After some time, they got married and started their own family. But even after getting married, Oluchi never forgot about Agnes. She continued to care for her sister and make sure she had everything she needed. When Agnes had school holidays, she would come to stay with Oluchi and Alfred. They would spend time together as a family, laughing and sharing stories. Before Agnes went back to school, Oluchi and Alfred made sure she had enough money and supplies to last her until the next holiday. One evening, as they sat together under the starry sky, Agnes hugged her sister tightly and said, Oluchi, I don't know what I would have done without you. You've always been there for me through thick and thin. Oluchi smiled and hugged her sister back. I will always be here for you, Agnes. You are not just my sister, you are my best friend. As they laughed and talked late into the night, Oluchi knew that no matter what, she would always love and protect her little sister, Agnes. As time goes on, life continued in the routine at Oluchi's house. Alfred, her husband, worked hard as a taxi driver, using every penny he earned to take care of his family. Oluchi, despite being pregnant, still managed to support her husband and her sister Agnes, who was soon to graduate from the university. She didn't let her pregnancy slow her down, determined to do her part for her family. Months passed, and Oluchi gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Ugoma. The newborn brought so much joy into their family, filling their home with laughter and love. Alfred was overjoyed and felt incredibly blessed to have a wonderful wife and a precious daughter. As time went on, things began to look up for Oluchi and Alfred. They thanked God for bringing Ugoma into their lives. Alfred was able to buy his own car for his taxi business, no longer needing to account to anyone else. Oluchi's own business flourished, bringing in more incomes for the family. Agnes, too, was thriving, thanks to Oluchi's love and support. One evening, as they sat together around the dinner table, Alfred looked at Oluchi with admiration. I can't believe how lucky I am to have you as my wife, Oluchi, and Ugoma as our daughter. You've made our house a home filled with so much love. Oluchi smiled warmly. And I'm grateful for you too, Alfred. You work so hard for our family, and I couldn't ask for a better husband and a father to Ugoma. Agnes, who was also at the table, interjected, I don't know what I would have done without both of you. You've given me everything, and I will always be thankful for both of you. The room was filled with warmth and happiness as they enjoyed their meal together, knowing that they were truly blessed to have each other. At Agnes's school in the university, she has been dating a boy. One day, they had a heated argument at her off-campus lodge. During the argument, the boy suddenly collapsed and passed out. Agnes's neighbors rushed to her room, and many of them accused her of causing the boy's condition without any evidence. Agnes was arrested and taken to court because the young man had already died before they could get to the hospital. When Oluchi, Agnes's sister, and her husband Alfred visited her in jail, they asked Agnes if she was responsible for what had happened. Agnes tearfully recounted the events of what happened that day, insisting that she was not to blame. Oluchi and Alfred promised to do anything they could to help Agnes. That night, Oluchi and Alfred couldn't sleep. They worried about Agnes and her upcoming exams. Despite feeling helpless, they were determined to find a way to free her from jail. As the investigation continued, the boy's family also looked into the matter and found out that their son had been very sick. And eventually, Oluchi and Alfred were told that a large sum of money was needed to bail Agnes out of jail. Desperate to help their sister, they sold everything they owed. Alfred even sold his car, and they emptied their life savings, but it wasn't still enough. With no other option left, they borrowed money from a kind family who was willing to help. After the court judgment day, Agnes was finally released. Oluchi and Alfred were overjoyed, even though they had nothing left to their name. They knew that they had done everything they could to support Agnes. When they returned home, Agnes expressed her gratitude to Oluchi and Alfred. She felt indebted to them for the unwavering support. They reassured her that she was family and they would always stand by her side. Agnes couldn't believe the sacrifices they had to make for her. How did you manage to raise so much money? Agnes asked, overwhelmed with emotion. Oluchi and Alfred explained how they had sold everything they owed and borrowed money from a friend. Agnes was deeply touched by their love and selflessness. As they sat together in their humble home, Agnes felt a sense of warmth and gratitude. She knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would always have her sister and her brother-in-law by her side. After the ordeal of being in police cell, Agnes slowly regained her strength and returned to her school, focusing on her final exams. Despite the trauma, she persevered and completed her university education. Following that, she served her country for a year before landing a job at the Enugu State Government House of Representatives. Agnes's success brought joy to Oluchi and Alfred. They celebrated her achievements and looked forward to seeing her again. Agnes promised to visit them soon and keep in touch regularly. Months went by without any word from Agnes. Oluchi and Alfred grew worried, especially when their financial situation worsened. Their landlord threatened to evict them due to unpaid rents stretching back over a year. In desperation, Oluchi traveled to Enugu to seek Agnes's help. Tearfully, she explained their dear situation, pleading with her sister to assist them. However, Agnes only offered empty promises. saying she was busy with ongoing projects and couldn't help at the moment. Each time Oluchi visited Agnes, she left feeling heartbroken and betrayed. She couldn't understand why her sister kept promising to help her but never followed through. Despite Agnes's assurances of assistance, all Oluchi received were small amounts of money for transport or a meal. One day, Oluchi confronted Agnes about her broken promises. "Why do you keep telling me you will help me, Agnes? We are struggling so much, and you are the only one who can make a difference. Please help me and my family, Agnes." Agnes looked away, unable to meet her sister's gaze. "I know, Oluchi, and I want to help, but things are complicated at work, and I have my own bills to pay too." "But we are family, Agnes," Oluchi pleaded. "We've always been there for each other. Please don't abandon us now." Agnes sighed, feeling torn between her responsibilities and her family. "I'll try to do better, Oluchi. I promise. Just give me time." But deep down, Oluchi knew that Agnes's promises were empty. Despite her sister's success and newfound wealth, she couldn't bring herself to help her own family in their time of need. As Oluchi left Agnes's home, she couldn't shake the feeling of disappointment and betrayal. She wondered how things had changed so much between them and prayed for a solution for their troubles. 3 days later, Oluchi's landlord delivered a devastating news, telling them that he was giving them 1 week to leave his house or pay his rent. Oluchi and Alfred pleaded for more time, but the landlord remained firm. Oluchi was shattered, her heart heavy with worry and fear for her family's future. Despite Alfred's reassurances, she found it hard to sleep, consumed by thoughts of their dear situation. Early the next morning, Oluchi and Alfred visited Agnes in Enugu once more, hoping for some assistance. However, upon arrival, they were greeted with a shocking sight. Agnes was living with a man named Chika, claiming he was her fiancé. She spoke of their upcoming wedding plans, and she had told them that she was planning to come visit them with Chika. Oluchi and Alfred were stunned by Agnes's behavior. They couldn't understand how she could lavish generosity on others while her own family suffered in poverty. Agnes promised to sponsor their businesses after her wedding, but Oluchi felt only sadness and disappointment. As they talked, Oluchi and Alfred realized that Agnes was the one supporting her fiancé-to-be. Despite their feelings of betrayal, they couldn't bring themselves down to accept Agnes's offer of food. Instead, they accepted the transport fare she offered and left, their hearts heavy with sorrow. On their return home, they were met with an even greater shock. Their belongings were thrown outside, and their door was locked with a heavy padlock. Oluchi felt her heart break as she realized they had been evicted from their home. Alfred's face mirrored her devastation as they stood in disbelief, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. With tears streaming down her face, Oluchi struggled to comprehend the turns of events. She couldn't understand why Agnes had turned her back on them, leaving them homeless and destitute. Alfred wrapped his arms around his wife, her eyes filled with sorrow and confusion. "We will figure something out, Oluchi," he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. But Oluchi could find no comfort in his words. As they stood outside their former home, she couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal and abandonment. And as darkness fell around them, she knew that their journey was far from over. Oluchi and Alfred stood there in their former home, their hearts heavy with despair. Their daughter Ugoma returned from school early that day, with tears streaming down her face. She sobbed and she explained that She had been chased out of school due to unpaid fees. The news shattered Oluchi and Alfred even further, knowing that their daughter's education was now at risk. In the midst of their despair, their friend, who had previously helped them bail out Agnes, arrived. He offered them a place to stay in his home, providing them with a glimmer of hope in the darkest hour. Grateful for his kindness, Oluchi and Alfred accepted his offer with tearful thanks. Settling into their new temporary home, Oluchi and Alfred began to search for ways to make ends meet. However, despite their efforts, they struggled to find stable employment. Meanwhile, Ugoma remained at home, unable to attend school and feeling the weight of their family's hardships. One day, a friend from their village visited Oluchi and shared stories of Agnes's charitable deeds within the community. The friend couldn't understand how Agnes could neglect her own sister while helping others. Oluchi's heart ached at the realization of her sister's indifference to her suffering. Determined to provide for her family, Oluchi's friend offered her some money to send Ugoma back to school and purchase essentials for their home. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Oluchi accepted the assistance, knowing that it would make a significant difference in their lives. As Oluchi reflected on their situation, she made a solemn decision. She vowed never to seek help from her sister again, feeling betrayed by Agnes's neglect and indifference to their struggles. When Alfred returned home that evening, Oluchi eagerly shared everything that had happened during the day. She recounted the kindness of her friend who had offered them assistance, and Alfred's heart swelled with gratitude. God bless her for remembering us, he exclaimed, bowing his head in silent prayer. As Oluchi expressed her decision to stop seeking help from Agnes, Alfred listened attentively. Though he understood his wife's feeling of betrayal, he urged her to give her sister one final chance. You never know, Oluchi, he said softly. Agnes might surprise us this time, but if she doesn't, then we will know where we stand. Reluctantly, Oluchi agreed with her husband's suggestion. They both understood the gravity of the situation and the need to maintain their dignity, even in the face of adversity. Together, they resolved to approach Agnes one last time with cautious hope in their hearts. Later that night, Oluchi fell ill, complaining of a serious ache in her chest. Concerned, Alfred tenderly cared for his wife, urging her to rest and not to worry about any troubles. Oluchi nodded weakly, finding solace in her husband's comforting presence. As they lay together in their modest home, surrounded by uncertainty and challenges, Alfred whispered words of reassurance to his beloved wife. Everything will be all right, Oluchi, he murmured, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. We will face whatever comes our way together. The following morning, Oluchi summoned the strength to confront her sister once more. Despite her illness, she was determined to remind Agnes of her promises and the struggles their family faced. With resolve in her heart, Oluchi journeyed back to Enugu, followed by a mixture of hope and desperation. Arriving at Agnes's house, Oluchi poured out her heart, pleading with her sister to honor her commitments. She recounted their shared sacrifices and the hardships they had endured, hoping to soften Agnes's heart. Tears streamed down Oluchi's cheeks as she spoke, her words filled with pain and longing for understanding. But Agnes remained unmoved, repeating her assurances of assistance and urging Oluchi to be patient. Despite Oluchi's impassionate pleas, Agnes offered only empty promises, leaving her sister's heart heavy with disappointment and frustration. In a moment of anger and despair, Oluchi declared that she would never beg Agnes for any help again. With tears of betrayal in her eyes, she turned and left Agnes's house, her heart burdened by the weight of shattered hopes and broken promises. As Oluchi made her way back home to Umunze that night, her soul weighed down by sadness and grief, she retreated into silence, unable to find solace even in the presence of her beloved husband, Alfred. With heavy hearts, they both retired for the night, each lost in their own thoughts and sorrow. Hours passed, and as the night wore on, Alfred gently reached out to wake his wife, hoping to offer her comfort in their shared grief. But to his shock and horror, he discovered that Oluchi was dead in her own sleep, her final moments spent in quiet solitude. Alfred's cries of anguish echoed through their humble home, a testament to the profound loss they had suffered. In an instant, their world was shattered, leaving behind only the echoes of Oluchi's unfulfilled dreams and the unbearable weight of grief. Alfred, overwhelmed by grief, spent the morning calling Agnes repeatedly, desperate to deliver the devastating news about her sister's passing. However, Agnes remained oblivious to his attempts to reach her, unaware of the tragedy that had befallen her family. Finally, Alfred decided to travel to Enugu to inform Agnes in person. Upon his arrival at her office, Agnes assumed he had come to discuss the financial assistance she had promised them. But before she could speak, Alfred delivered the heartbreaking news of Oluchi's death. Agnes was turned into silence, her mind reeling with shock and regret. As Alfred left her office, she was consumed by a wave of overwhelming guilt, realizing the extent of her neglect towards her own sister who had sacrificed so much for her. Tears streamed down her eyes as she made her way home, grappling with the weight of her own shortcomings. She couldn't shake the feeling of shame and remorse for not being there for Oluchi when she needed her the most. Determined to make amends, Agnes visited Oluchi's home, where she found Alfred grieving the loss of his beloved wife. Despite her shame, Agnes resolved to take in responsibility for her sister's funeral arrangements, sparing no expense to honor her memory. Agnes also took it upon herself to improve the living conditions of Oluchi's family, renting a new home for them to live in dignity. She poured her effort into preparing for Oluchi's burial, ensuring that every detail was taken care of with love and respect. Additionally, Agnes embarked on a project to build a mansion at their father's house, wanting to honor Oluchi's memory by providing a better life for their family. Despite her efforts, however, whispers of criticism and judgment followed Agnes, with some questioning her sudden display of generosity in the wake of Oluchi's passing. As the villagers murmured about her actions, Agnes couldn't help but feel the stench of their accusations. She knew she had failed her sister in life, and now in death, she was determined to make things right, no matter the cost. And so Agnes grapples with the consequences of her neglect, striving to atone for the past mistakes and honor the memory of the sister she had lost. One quiet night, Agnes found herself alone in her father's house, surrounded by the heavy weight of regret and remorse. As she sat in the darkness, her mind churned with thoughts of her actions towards her late sister, Oluchi, and the pain she had caused her family. Tears streamed down Agnes's cheeks as she reflected on the sacrifices Oluchi had made for her, recalling the selfless love and devotion that had characterized their relationship. She remembered how Oluchi's husband, Alfred, had sold his only source of income to save her from the clutches of jail, and her heart ached with guilt for the burden she had placed upon them. In the stillness of the night, Agnes felt the weight of her sins pressing down upon her. She realized the depth of her wrongdoing and the extent of the pain she had inflicted upon her sister and her family. With a heavy heart, she resolved to seek forgiveness from both God and man for her transgression. Bowing down her head in prayer, Agnes poured out her soul, begging for forgiveness for her wickedness and cruelty towards her sister. She acknowledged her faults and shortcomings, vowing to make amends and seek redemption for her past sins. How could I have been so heartless? Agnes whispered into the silence, her voice choked with emotion. How could I have neglected the one person who loved me unconditionally? Oh, Oluchi, please forgive me. As the night wore on, Agnes found solace in the embrace of sleep, her heart heavy with the weight of her remorse. But even in the dreams, the spectre of her past actions haunted her, driving her to seek reconciliation and forgiveness with those she had wronged. Agnes slept, her soul burdened by the weight of her guilt, but also filled with the hope of redemption and reconciliation in the light of a new day. As the day of Oluchi's burial drew near, Agnes found herself immersed in the whirlwind of preparations alongside Oluchi's grieving husband, Alfred. Together they worked tirelessly to ensure that the funeral arrangements were made with care and reverence, their hearts heavy with sorrow for the loss of their beloved sister and wife. Amidst the chaos of planning, Agnes reached out to her fiancé, Chika, hoping for his support and assistance during this difficult time. But what Chika revealed to her shattered Agnes to her core, leaving her reeling in disbelief and despair. Chika's words struck Agnes like a bolt of lightning, his accusation piercing her heart with their harsh truth. He expressed his doubts about their relationship, revealing that he could not marry someone who had neglected her own flesh and blood, even in their time of need. Agnes felt as though the ground had opened up beneath her, swallowing her whole in a whirlwind of guilt and shame. She remembered the countless times Chika had urged her to help her sister and the family, only to be met with resistance and excuses. Now, faced with the consequences of her actions, she realized the depth of her folly. Tears welled up in Agnes's eyes as she listened to Chika's words, the weight of her mistakes bearing down upon her with crushing forces. She had lost not only her beloved sister, but also the love and support of the man she had hoped to spend her life with. In that moment of reckoning, Agnes understood the true cost of her selfishness and neglect. She had sacrificed the most precious relationships in her life for the sake of her own comfort and convenience. And now she was left to face the consequences alone. As Agnes grappled with the harsh reality of her actions, she knew that she had no one to blame but herself. And as she stood there, trembling with grief and remorse. On the day of Oluchi's burial, the village came together to bid farewell to a beloved daughter, a sister and a friend. Tears flowed freely as Oluchi was laid to rest, surrounded by the love and prayers of those who had gathered to honor her memory. After the solemn ceremony, as the sun began to set on the horizon, Agnes gathered her family members around her. With a heavy heart and tears streaming down her face, she knelt before them, her voice trembling with emotion as she begged for their forgiveness for her past transgressions. I am truly sorry for the pain and suffering I have caused you all, Agnes whispered, her words choked with sorrow. I know I have been selfish and thoughtless, but please find it in your heart to forgive me. Her family members looked upon her with a mixture of sadness and compassion, their hearts softened by Agnes's sincere plea for forgiveness. They knew that she had suffered greatly in the wake of Oluchi's passing, and they could see the genuine remorse in her eyes. We forgive you, Agnes, her brother-in-law said, his voice filled with forgiveness. We may have lost Oluchi, but we still have you. Let us move forward together as a family, with love and understanding in our hearts. Tears of gratitude welled up in Agnes's eyes as she embraced her family members, feeling the weight of their forgiveness lift from her shoulders. She knew that she had been given a second chance, and she was determined to make the most out of it. In the days that followed, Agnes kept her promise to her family. She took Ugoma under her wing, ensuring that she received the education she deserved. She also worked tirelessly to help Alfred rebuild his life, supporting him in his endeavors and offering him a shoulder to lean on in his time of need. As time passed, Agnes became a beacon of hope and redemption in the village. Her acts of kindness and generosity touched the lives of those around her, inspiring others to forgive and seek reconciliation in their own lives. And so, Agnes's story came to a close, marked by forgiveness, redemption, and the enduring power of love. Though she had once strayed from the path of righteousness, she had found her way back, guided by the unwavering support of her family and the grace of God. In the end, she emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than ever before. The most important lesson from this story is that family is precious, and it is important to cherish and support one another through thick and thin. Because when we turn our backs on our own family members who had helped us become successful in life, it not only hurts them deeply, but it also reflects poorly on our character and integrity as individuals, showing that we value personal gain over loyalty and love. Furthermore, the story teaches us that selfishness and neglect towards our family members can lead to devastating consequences, causing rifts and heartache that may never fully heal. And it's also crucial to prioritize the well-being and happiness of our loved ones above our own desires and ambitions, as true fulfillment and joy come from nurturing and strengthening the bonds of family rather than seeking validation and recognition from external sources. Additionally, the story highlights the importance of humanity, forgiveness, and redemption, as even when we make mistakes and stray from the right path, it's never too late to seek forgiveness, mend broken relationships, and strive to become better versions of ourselves, learning from our past actions and embracing the opportunity to grow and change for the better. Ultimately, that serves as a poignant reminder that while the journey of life may be filled with challenges and obstacles, it's the love, support, and unity of family that provides us with the strength and resilience to overcome adversity and find true happiness and fulfillment in life. And with that, my dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonder, and endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.